All right. Hi, Jason. How are you?
I'm great, thanks. Douglas, how are you?
Oh, good. Thanks. Thank you for coming on the show. I appreciate it. You're in Australia, and according to your bio, you were going to play cricket or football.
Yeah, I loved both those sports as a kid. Australia has a long kind of relationship with cricket, so most kids grow up with some of those kind of aspirations.
Okay. Well, you kind of look like you could play Australian rules football.
Yeah, I certainly played it in school, and yeah, it's a pretty fun sport.
I always like watching that sport because, I mean, it seems brutal, though. You get beat up in that game, yeah?
Yeah, it's less brutal than it used to be. Like a lot of sports, it's kind of a bit more sanitized these days. But yeah, it's one of those sports where uh, the ball can come from any direction because there's no, offside rule or that kind of thing. So it's one of those sports where you can kind of get run into from any direction at any time, which means that sometimes an unsuspecting player gets flattened.
Well, I got a kick out of watching it because when I compared it to American football with the helmets and the pads and they're practically wearing a suit of armor, the Americans. And the
Yeah,
Australian rules, they're just wearing shorts. And
yeah, yeah. Shorts and a jersey, basically.
yeah, yeah, and no
Um,
padding, no protection at all, right?
no, that's it. But in AFL, I also do a lot of running. So the average midfield player will run up to 12 kilometres in a game. So you'd be hard pressed to do that with a helmet and shoulder pads.
So that didn't work. What happened? Decided against it, or
Oh yeah, I just wasn't good enough really at sports to kind of make progress in that space as much as any kid would have liked to.
okay? So you switched your aspirations, and what did you do after that?
So mostly I've worked with people. So at the moment I'm working in a school here in Canberra as a counsellor and social worker and chaplain. So that keeps me pretty occupied. I've been involved in education and worked with young people, particularly for many years as a youth worker. Particularly coming out of school, I did that probably for 13 or 14 years. So yeah, I kind of switched from wanting to have that kind of sporting aspiration to I guess trying to help people be who they've been created to be and help them overcome the things that they face in life that are uh, sometimes challenges they have no control over, but impact on how people live and the choices they make.
Would you consider yourself a counselor or a teacher?
Yeah, I'm a trained counsellor, I'm
Okay.
a psychotherapist.
So, what sort of kids do you work with? Kids with learning disabilities or kids who are having problems, maybe legal with the law and getting in trouble, things like that?
It's kind of a mixture. Sometimes kids with learning challenges or things like autism or ADHD, but also do a lot of work with young people who have grown up in challenging family circumstances. Where the parents might be separated or fighting or arguing or divorced, or there might be domestic violence in the home. There can be drug addiction or alcohol abuse, and yeah, I guess trying to give young people like that a safe place to kind of talk to and process what's going on for them, as well as give them some options about how they might be able to, work through some of that stuff going forward from there. So yeah, it's really about um, being there for people who really need someone in difficult circumstances.
So, how long have you done that?
Well, I've been in this school role now for about 18 months. And yeah, that's been uh, really challenging, but really good.
Then at some point you wrote a book. Is this your first book, or do you have many books?
It's my first work of fiction. In education, I've written a lot of education type materials, workbooks and textbooks and things like that in the field that I was involved in. But yeah, this is really the first work of fiction or story type book that I've written, and yeah, I'm really excited to have people read it.
What inspired you to write the book?
I think a lot of the experiences that I've had working with young people, the book is basically the story of a young man who, kind of starts out at a very young age trying to work life out, and really the book is a story of his journey through some pretty challenging circumstances, and so yeah, I guess there's a strong connection to the work I do, and I'm kind of hoping that the book might be an encouragement to some of the young people that I work with, to kind of see and experience a story that demonstrates that they're not alone in the things that they face.
Well, the book is called Josiah.
Yeah, that's the name of the main character.
What age group is the book aimed at? Is it aimed at like teenagers, or is it an adult book?
Yeah, it's really aimed at teenagers. It's I guess a story that I'm hoping will resonate with them, and so that's really where the focus is. And it's a perfectly well. I'm probably biased. I think it's a perfectly interesting book for adults to read as well, particularly because I'm hoping that it'll give some insight into how young people think and the kinds of experiences that they wrestle with.
What genre would you put this book in?
Well, it's a work of fiction, but it's based on I guess a number of true stories. So it's the character themselves and the circumstances they face are a work of fiction, but it's also really based on the experiences of young people that I've worked with across the years. And so, I've kind of brought together a number of different stories and experiences that people have shared with me, and turned them into a book about a character who goes through a lot of the things that young people experience.
I assume you're self-published, or did you get a traditional publisher?
No, it's self-published. I have worked with traditional publishers in the past in the education field, and I really felt that self-publishing kind of keeps the costs reasonable. It gives you more control over potentially giving books away to young people who might benefit from them, and I'm not really in it to kind of create a kind of big name for myself or that kind of thing. It's more trying to get that story out there to people that might benefit.
Well, the reason I ask that is because if you were traditionally published, you'd have to, they're really fussy about the genre that the book would fit into. Where
Yeah,
as a self-published author, you can make up your own genres.
yeah,
Basically,
it
you
gives you
put it
more
out.
flexibility.
Yeah, you can put it out as anything you like, really. Um, I know I've had this conversation with other authors, and it's one of the sort of pros and cons between self-publishing and traditional publishing. Can you give us, we've got about 3 minutes or so, can you give us one sort of anecdote from the book, a teaser or something like that?
Sure, yeah. So Josiah, probably one of the most significant experiences he has is in grade six. He's living in Melbourne with his family, and he goes through a year where the school that he's going to is a pretty rough school. It's a school that is in an area where there's lots of government housing. There's people with all kinds of life challenges and so forth who attend the school, and Josiah's, I guess, confronted with some bullying experiences in that school. So coming into the school, he's quite passionate about his sport and gets involved. He gets picked in the school cricket team. He gets made the captain, and a number of the other boys aren't too happy about Josiah being in this position and decide to, beat him up one day after school, and so Josiah kind of goes through this really difficult experience where, on the one hand, he feels like he's being honoured for having some sporting ability, but on the other hand, it's actually creating conflict for him within the school environment, and so Josiah finds that really difficult. He finds the school doesn't really support him in terms of coping with bullying, and so it's something that basically causes him to withdraw from social connections and friendships within that year group as a part of a coping mechanism for him, which is what a lot of young people do when they're experiencing trauma. They tend to withdraw from friendships and go into a kind of survival self-protection mode, and Josiah very much does that in the context of this story, and so he comes out the other side, but it's one of those kind of really key events in Josiah's life that really shape how he starts to engage with the world, and really over the next few years in the book. Part of that story is one of self-protection, I guess.
Do you have a website that you want to give out?
Yeah, you can pre-order the book. It comes out on May the 15th, so you can pre-order it from our website, which is jasonpotter.com.au, Australian website. It's also available for pre-order on Amazon, and be released on May the 15th on Kindle and or ebook and paperback as well.
Okay, great. And last question, are you on social media? Do you want anybody to check out your social media pages?
Yeah, I've got a Facebook page. So if you go to Facebook and just search for Jason Potter author, you'll find our Facebook page, and we post fairly or relatively regularly on there about the story, but also about other things that are kind of going on in the world a little bit. Sometimes we post resources and things that people can access if they're struggling with something in life. So it's I'm hoping it's a useful page for people to connect to.
How's COVID doing in Australia? You guys?
Well, we've been one of the lucky countries, I guess. We closed our borders really, really early in COVID, and so for a country of 25 million people, we've had around 25,000 cases altogether, which has really been very different to what many other countries are experiencing, America in particular, but lots of other countries in our region, in the Pacific, Papua New Guinea, those kind of places are really struggling with COVID. So we're kind of going through a vaccination process now, but Australia's had a very small number of cases really relative to the rest of the world's population. We've had around 800 people lose their lives over the last year to COVID, which is a very small number, in relative terms to what other countries have experienced, even countries our size. So I think being an island helps us.
Yeah,
It might be the
probably.
largest island on the planet, but we're an island, and I think that allows us some more control over borders. Yeah, we've been very lucky in that regard.
Well, we do have to wrap this up. Thanks so much for coming on the show and talking about your book, and good luck with the book launch. I hope the book does very well. Best of luck.
Thanks, Douglas. Appreciate the